The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello and welcome. My name is Christine Perret. I'm the president of Perret Research and Consulting and the chair of the Area Research Committee. Welcome to today's webinar on June 20th. And the focus of today's webinar is the research projects and results that some of our members have achieved. I'd like to welcome to this webinar Farhad Patel and Chris Freeman. They will be our panelists today in presenting about their projects. A little bit of background before I begin, or I turn it over to Farhad and Chris. The Area Research Committee meets monthly, and this is one of our value-added contributions to area members. So it's an area member exclusive. It will be available for recording, for replay. We'll have an archive. But I want to point out to you also, those of you who are on the webinar now, that you can add questions or insert your questions using the GoToWebinar interface on the right-hand side of your screen. Please insert your questions and comments, and we will be able to answer those at the end. So from a procedural point of view, that's what I'd like to share with you. As many of you know, the area's mission is to support the growth of a AR ecosystem that serves enterprise customers. And we achieve that through these four different pillars. We provide thought leadership that includes things like webinars, white papers, and we try to curate content that comes from all over the internet. We're also a good place for networking and finding resources for projects, potential customers and partners for the future. And the members share experiences and help to bring everyone to the highest possible level of education. We're also working on a marketplace to help people find services and products in the future. Our third pillar is to reduce the gap in professional skilled people who know how to do augmented reality for enterprises. So we're promoting a variety of programs, and we'll be developing that further over this course of this year to increase the number of people who have AR qualifications and to share with them the job openings that are available for them. Finally, we have a number of committees, and they focus on different barriers. We reduce the barriers through our committee work. The five committees today are on the screen here. The first four of them really do focus on those barriers I mentioned, and then the fifth is our marketing committee to involve our members in the development of better outreach programs that can raise our awareness about what the area does. So today's webinar is brought to you by the Research Committee, and I'm going to tell you a little bit more about how the Research Committee works. Our charter is to bring better results for the members. One of the things that we do is we organize a procedure, we manage a process to help enterprises get more value from the area by obtaining research that focuses on member concerns and member questions, topics of importance to our members. We do that by soliciting contributions of topics. We're in the process of asking and inviting our members to contribute for the fourth cycle. Once we have collected all these topics, we review them and manage them a little bit. Then we have a vote, a democratic process to decide and to choose one of those topics that will receive our attention. We then solicit proposals from research vendors and manage a process to deliver final deliverables to get the results. And then we help with Mark and our marketing arm to get the results out into the hands of our members. And there usually is a component that also is available for the wider AR ecosystem. So this is the main focus of our committee, but since we meet monthly, we do learn a lot about what our different members are doing in the research domain. And we use the word research quite loosely, primarily mean applied research, things that could solve real world problems. And that's indeed what we're focused on today. So we decided a few months ago that there could be some value in members presenting the results that they're getting, and that this would increase everyone's exposure to different tactics and methods that are used when testing and doing proof of concepts. In addition, we want to share those results, or some of our members feel comfortable sharing their results with other members. So that's sort of bringing value and contributing into this community of important people, important companies. And thirdly, we think that by sharing the status and the approaches that we're taking, area members might develop trust and find ways to collaborate and partner with one another on research or in productization and many other ways. So that's a bit of background about the area of the research committee, and today's webinar is focusing on the members' research projects. The first of those projects, or a series of projects actually, is going to be presented to you by Farhad Patel. And Farhad, I invite you to introduce yourself and just let me know when you want me to change the slide. Thank you.
Thank you, Christine. You can, you changed the slide. I guess we're ready to go. Let me just make some notes over here. Okay, hello everybody, and welcome to the webinar. My name is Farhad Patel. I am a technical communication manager for Huawei Technologies. And let's get this started by telling you a little bit about Huawei. So Huawei is a leading global provider of information and communications technology infrastructure and smart devices. It manufactures integrated solutions across 4 key domains, which are telecom networks, information technology, smart devices, and cloud services. Meaning we design and develop telecom equipment, networking equipment, routers, switches, mobile devices such as cell phones, tablets, laptops, etc. And we also do cloud computing services. So Huawei, which is pronounced Huawei, the H is silent. I know that's a big mystery for a lot of people. It's a private company. It's fully owned by its employees. It is headquartered in Shenzhen, China, and we have more than 180,000 employees, and we operate in many regions of the world. I am part of Huawei's documentation innovation and best practices team, and we are responsible for coming out with new innovative ways to develop and deliver documentation to our customers. When I say documentation, I mean technical content such as user guides, online help, technical manuals, reference guides, instructional manuals, etc. So what is the key question that our research wanted to answer? Christina, if you could switch, move on, thank you. The key question, the challenge is, what did we want to try to accomplish? So technical content is often very complex. The audiences, the environments are very diverse. The content can be wide-ranging and can be many times too much overwhelming for readers to sift through and to locate the exact information that they're looking for. The content needs to come from a single source, meaning we don't want to rewrite it many times for delivery through multiple channels. So is it possible, and that's the question we ask ourselves, is it possible to use AR to deliver technical content to our customers in a format that is easy to read, easy to understand, and can be accessed with the least amount of effort possible? Again, the key question that we wanted to answer was, is AR a viable channel to deliver technical content to our customers? The most appealing feature about AR as far as the delivery of technical content is concerned is that images, objects, and equipment can be automatically identified and content can be automatically displayed without searching. In other words, real-time delivery of contextual and searchless content. And depending on the device being used, that delivery could also be hands-free if you're using AR glasses, for example. Another thing that we also tried to do was see if there are off-the-shelf AR software developers that could get software. We could give a software that works in Huawei's IT environment. So if you could move on to the next slide, Christine. So our approach, let's talk about our approach. Huawei has multiple product lines, and in order to fully investigate the viability of AR as a content delivery mechanism for different types of content, for example, instructional content, inspection instructions, print content, we had to test it across multiple product lines and for different use cases. We couldn't afford to focus only on one product. We had to try AR with different products. So our strategy was to develop multiple small pilot projects with different product lines for different products. Our pilots included interactive installation and inspection content, as well as interactive print content. Having multiple small projects also allowed us to evaluate different vendors. And we also tried the eyewear option. We did have one or two projects where we tried AR glasses, but we mostly focused on a tablet and smartphones. So let's talk about the results now. So here's this is one of our very first projects, and in the background you will see our equipment. It's a cabinet, and in the foreground you'll see a person's thumb holding a tablet. So what you're looking at is a video of our picture of the equipment. You're seeing the AR superimposed on the tablet. There's that loosen the screws, and there are two arrows, red arrows towards the bottom, and it shows which way to loosen the screws. So that's just a screen grab of the video that we have produced. Christine, would you mind moving to the next slide, please? And this is another picture from the same project that we did. again, you see the kind of complex stuff that we have going on in our backplanes. This is the back of the cabinet, and AR is very good in telling our technicians on what cables need to come out, what need to go in. If you're replacing cards or boards, I think it's a very viable mechanism to let our customers know what needs to be done. Next slide, please, Christine. So this is a screen capture of another project, and this one was a little bit different, where this had a little bit of marketing flavor to it. In the background, you'll see a small part of a manual that's open, and what we did was we had some of the pictures had AR embedded, and so in the foreground you'll see that the actual picture has come to life, so as to say, and it's you can see the microwave equipment, and you can see the options that are presented to the user. They can pinch the screen, they can drag it, they can turn it around, double tap it. So it's giving the user different options on what to do with just a simple picture that is visible through the manual. And then we also went ahead and put in different options to share that information via LinkedIn or email and whatnot. Next slide, Christine. This is still the same project. Here you can see some more augmented effects. We have two cells that are transmitting signals back and forth to each other. Now, of course, this is not visible in the paper manual, but seeing it via the tablet, you can see all these different animations, and so it's pretty cool. And our customers really liked the effect that this was producing. Next slide, please, Christine. So here is another view of the earlier picture. In this picture, we can actually select the rainfall, different rain zones, and depending on the option that is picked by the user, it will change the back and forth transmission that's being displayed in the AR. So I think this was a very nifty way to show our customers how rainfall could impact the strength of the signal. And of course, you can't do that. You can't visualize that if you're just looking at it on a printed manual. But having AR, demonstrate it is really, really effective way to sell something to our customers. Christine, if you could move on. Okay, this is a third different pilot project that we did, and in this one, the background is not visible. This is an outdoors project that we did, and you can see the equipment, and then you can see the cables in different colors that's superimposed. Towards the right, you can actually see the equipment and the technician's hand. So what we're telling the person to do is you need to use that piece of equipment and twist the cable. And this is a step to check whether the bolts are tightened as required. And you can see at the bottom, this is step number 6. We have some content superimposed, and we also have a checkbox. So once we do that, we can hit the checkbox and move on to the next step. Next slide, please, Christine. This is the same project again, where we are showing the technician where to insert the cables, And as you can see by the blue superimposed image there, and then we want him or her to check whether the input cable is firmly attached. And that's step number 7, as you can see at the bottom of the screen. Christine, next slide, please. So this is yet another pilot project. And I think this one was where we had to replace a CPU, if I'm not mistaken, and the first step of that was to open up the server cover, and it's showing the technician where to insert the screwdriver and in which direction to turn it. Next slide, please. Over here, we're actually, and this was one of our tougher projects, as you can imagine, we are trying to show the technician which DIMM card to actually pull out. This is the third step in the procedure, and we're trying to identify the exact DIMM card. We identified it, and then we're telling the person to pull it out, and that's part of the replacement procedure. Next slide, please. This is where we are actually installing a full CPU, and we are superimposing the actual CPU. We're telling the person, where the screws are, where to insert the screwdriver, and turn the direction in which to turn the screwdriver. Next slide, Christine. So yeah, I just walked you through some of our of the pilot projects that we had done, and the results were mixed. Some of the projects were very successful. We received good feedback from the executives and our customers. We actually demoed some of these at trade shows and industry conferences. So it went down really well. Some of them confronted, we came across limitations. For example, our products lacked texture. The lighting was, not sufficient or too much. And also, we experienced significant tools issues and programming issues. And in fact, one of the pilot projects that I showed you earlier, that was one we had some issues with, where the equipment was not recognized because it was too shiny and too reflective and didn't have the texture. So at the end of it all, we concluded that AR is extremely viable. It's really, really good for certain types of content, for certain types of use cases, but it is not ready to be deployed across the board for all our products until the technology is fully mature. Next slide, please, Christine. So let's talk about lessons learned. And since most of our, actually, since most of my area is around content, we still find a way where we actively publish the AR content. We don't have all the tools and the mechanisms in place to effectively, consistently, and at scale to publish AR. And that at scale part is very important, because whatever we do, we need to make sure every product line and every product within Huawei can do it. So all our content has to be single sourced to reuse the content. And what I mean by that is we want to write it only once and then publish the same content across different channels. For example, we want to use the same content for delivery in PDF. We want to use the same content for delivery in HTML, and also for AR delivery. We don't want to have to write one set of manuals for delivery via PDF and another set for delivery via AR. That becomes a content maintenance and updating nightmare if we had to do that. The other limitation also from a content perspective is the reuse because of the unique nature of AR technologies such as limited display area, intrinsic contextual positioning. The same content that we use in AR experiences cannot be the same that we would use for our other delivery channels. The content designated for AR experiences has to be micro, what I call micro content. We have to be careful and thoughtful in crafting content for AR experiences, and the purpose or meaning of that content, or whatever it is that we're trying to communicate through that content, has to be conveyed using the smallest possible sentence and the least amount of words, simply because we don't have a lot of space. So efficient and consistent content reuse is a big limitation, and this also applies to legacy content. And we have volumes and volumes of legacy content. So we have to find a way to reuse our legacy content effectively. Rewriting our legacy content just so that it can be used in AR experiences is obviously not viable. So two big limitations, both to do with content. One is how to publish the same content across different channels at scale, and the other is how to reuse or repurpose content for AR delivery. The other limitations are to do with AR technology itself, such as object recognition and tracking limitations, device limitations, and of course the performance of the display devices. The lessons learned, few more lessons learned. So in my opinion, the biggest is upfront planning. The importance of planning your AR experience cannot be understated. And some of the things that you have to consider are things such as, do you have the right use case? Is the use case suitable for AR? Is the environment and the equipment or the objects that you're going to use, is that suitable for AR delivery? Are you providing just the right amount of information so as not to overwhelm the users? Have your storyboards been reviewed and re-reviewed? And the earlier that they get reviewed, the better it is. We had many situations where our internal customers had expectations that were not realized. And these type of situations could have been avoided if we had the proper planning and reviewing in place. So how are these projects, how is this research project going to apply or extend to other challenges? So as a result of this research, we now know more about AR. We've improved our knowledge about AR technology. Sorry, Christina, I guess I'm going ahead of you. What it can do, what it can't do, its limitations, its challenges. We will take the lessons learned, the processes and the guidelines created for this research, and also the limitations into consideration. as we plan our next deployment. Looking ahead, next steps, what are we doing now? So we are working on a few small projects in the documentation area. We're also trying to figure out an appropriate platform from where we can publish all our AR experiences and our documentation in the same platform. We have increased the awareness and expertise of AR technology within our company. We have more product lines who are aware of how powerful and successful AR can be. So they all want to do it, but we're kind of in a holding pattern trying to wait till the technology matures. Before we can, scale the projects that we're doing. So for the most part, we're waiting for the technology to improve before undertaking any large-scale deployments. And the good thing, the positive thing is that the technology is indeed improving rapidly. So that is the end of my presentation. So I will step aside and wait for the next person.
Thank you, Farhad. That was really good. Appreciate the details that you provided, and certainly revealing a lot about those lessons learned and so forth. It's now the second half of this webinar is focusing on the projects that have been done at the Advanced Manufacturing Research Center in the UK. And it's my pleasure to welcome one of our members, Chris Freeman. Chris, I think you're on the line. Can you confirm that I can hear you?
Yep. Good afternoon, everybody.
Perfect. Thank you,
Good
Chris.
afternoon, Christine.
So I'll let you go ahead, introduce yourself, and just let me know when you want me to advance the slides or start the video, okay?
Yep, no problem. So good afternoon, my name is Chris Freeman. I work at the Advanced Manufacturing Research Centre for Boeing, so we are part of the University of Sheffield. And I'm Technical Fellow for Augmented Reality, and I look after the digital theme within our Factory 2050, which is the one you see in front of you. We'll step on, Christine. Next slide, Christine. Thank you.
Yep.
So just to give a very quick framework as to who we are and we offer. So we are a non-profit organisation, and we are part of the government's UK government's response to R&D within UK manufacturing. So traditionally, we've been focused on high value, low volume aerospace products. But our portfolio is broadening into kind of construction, automotive spaces. We have 4 main areas of research, looking at machining, assembly, which is your automation, robotics, composites manufacture, design, and prototyping. And we work with pretty much a who's list of aerospace partners. We are predominantly a member-based organisation, but we are funded through not just through our partners, but also through the direct paid work and through government subsidies. Next slide, Christine. So just to give you an idea as to where we position ourselves, as I say, we are non-for-profit, and we are, as being a university, we're limited in that we're unable to offer a service. So what we sit very much in kind of the middle phases of this kind of TRL, this technology readiness level. So this was a scale developed by NASA during the late 70s, early 80s, which was looked at readiness of technology. So the idea is that one might be a blue sky idea with an academic research, and then right through to 8 and 9, which is production at scale. And traditionally, there's always been a barrier in terms of getting good ideas through into production. So the AMRC was set up to develop the applications, develop solutions, almost create ingredients. I mean, we often say we're a sandpit for people to break stuff and try stuff, and we can do it in a risk-free environment. Next page, Christine. So we are the AMRC model was very much built upon. So we formed in 2001. In 2013, there was a report in the UK that identified there was a gap in in the UK's R&D competency within this middle TRL space, and as such, the High Value Manufacturing Passport Network was set up. So these are a mixture of existing and newly formed R&D facilities across the UK, looking at a range of competencies and within a range of sectors, all with the identical agenda, which is to look at how we can create smarter products and smarter processes. And also there's a huge amount of shared learning to be done in terms of kind of the horizontal information. So where we've added value for an aerospace customer, there might also be synergies for adding value to automotive, and which is particularly personal at the minute, is construction, where they're wanting to learn about how to look at manufacturing off-site. Next page, Christine. So I'm based on something called Factory 25. So this is a state-of-the-art automation facility, and it's very much kind of a beacon for UK manufacturing PLC, and it has a number of goals, but one of them is really to start to attract young people into industry, so to show that manufacturing is an attractive place to work, that if we're looking at trying to get necessary skills and people on board, they might be working in e-commerce, they might be working in some of the creative sectors. How do we make manufacturing attractive? Which is particularly pertinent from an augmented reality perspective as well, trying to get the right skills in how to develop the applications. Next page, Christine. So our big budget is to disrupt, not displace. So we're here to show people best practice. We're here to show people the art of the possible. But we're actually here to kind of hold people's hand and to enable them to do things better and to do things more effectively and efficiently. Christine? So within 2050, I kind of look after our digital competency, our digital manufacturing competency, which breaks into two areas. So one is the manufacturing informatics, and one we call is digitally assisted assembly. So we have been doing a huge amount of robotics projects, where robotics gives you a value in terms of traceability, the automation, the benefits that come off the back of that, the kind of right first time, just in time methodologies. But if we want to look at kind of very much human-centric processes, or where we can't buy automation off, you want to have digital systems that very much enable that traceability, that audit trail, that right first time. And that's where a lot of the augmented reality and mixed reality comes in. When we're looking at operator work instructions, we're looking at smart connected devices, we're looking at better methods for laying out, optimizing our workflow, and generally data visualization as a theme. And again, that's where some of the manufacturing informatics feeds through, because a lot of the intelligence sits above augmented reality. It sits at a system level. So for us from 2050, it's very much a complete piece. It's a bit like a jigsaw puzzle. You've got all these technologies that you're trying to piece together, but the value becomes in actually joining them all together rather than a particular technology in isolation. Next slide, Christine. So we do have a number of kind of key partners that we kind of work with and we've worked with in the past. So some of them you recognise, some you may not, some are area partners. So again, it's that whole disrupt, not displace. It's working with the best people on the market. It's working with the people who have the skills to enable and affect change, and we are very much supporting that. Okay, Christine. And just to summary, in terms of the skills we have, the influence we have, we've helped set up AMRC UK, which is the UK's national body for immersive technology. We're heavily involved in Euro VR. We're heavily involved in the applied visualization, which is the IET skills-based community. We've got the area, and I manage at the minute it's 20 developers. We do have quite a few job adverts out at the minute, which cover a whole range of skills, which covers the previously discussed competencies. Okay, Christine. So the project I'm going to talk to you about today is called the Augmented Worker. So you want to step on, Christine? So the Augmented Worker started off as a project between a couple of SMEs. They were doing some work. Again, this is where the AMRC adds a lot of value, because They were developing some activities, they were doing some work, they were looking at proving out the use of AR for off-site construction. Solly was doing some visualization work with the battery helmet and crossfell. So they both got a bit of an understanding. And next slide, Christine, around what the opportunities were. We had been doing some work ourselves. There should be a video on that. So we've been doing some of the work ourselves in terms of looking at what are the applications, what are the use cases, and again, it's very much fundamental. I mean, it was wave 2 of the HoloLens, so it was one of the first things we ever did. And do you want to step on, Christine? And over a few years, we kind of got talking. We were obviously interested in this area. They'd been doing this project. It's like, well, they were struggling to kind of make the next step, and we very much came in to sort of try to grease those wheels, as it were. So what we did for them was this little on-site application, proof of concept, which was looking at taking one of our houses, looking at the process, looking at how you're optimizing it, looking at the user interface, and so you drop that onto actually their assembly line. And the project was that effective. They were actually using this, and they're still using this particular version of the application, not from a build perspective, but from a verification perspective. So they'll still do the build very manually in the traditional paper-based mechanism, but when it comes to verifying, they will very quickly flash up the overlay to verify the parts in the right place. Want to step on, Christine? So this led to a Innovate UK submission. So again, the AMRC is very much a route to funding for a lot of people. We put together a consortium. We mapped out what we wanted to achieve. And next slide, Christine. And we developed the idea of having this kind of platform-based solution whereby we had a number of tools that were set on top of that. These would be tools that we developed by some of the partners within the program, and these will give people access to some of the kind of vision applications that you've seen kind of on YouTube and in the media. So there are 5 key tools there around real-time engagement, co-design, digital job guidance, and process monitoring. And we're gonna start mapping these out as the project progresses. Do you want to step on, Christine? And the idea is that essentially we are creating for better sense of the word, kind of manufacturing execution system to enable a lot of, to be able to plug in from multiple data sets. And again, it's one of the value of having all that's kind of Microsoft on board. We can start to look at building applications which work natively with some of these partners. We're engaging with Trimble, with Bentley as well. So really looking at trying to affect the whole ecosystem and trying to plug into as many data sources, because the more things we can try and publish within our virtual platform, the more valuable the augmented experience becomes. Do you want us to step through the next couple of slides, Christine? So we've got some kind of 3 concept images. We'll just step through one. So you just get the idea as to the kind of approach and the kind of vision that we're trying to achieve. Do you want us to keep stepping through, please, Christine? And one more, and again, and again. So, the crux of what we want to talk today was the augmented worker capture. So again, what we started to do is to identify where there are research gaps in the work that we wanted to do. So do you want to kind of step on, Christine? So the objectives of the augmented worker capture was to look at how we could utilize either mobile or different capture technologies to actually pull through into an augmented system. So if we're saying, actually, you know what, we want to understand what's behind the wall, there's a lot of technologies out there that enable that already. So the solution that we developed was a method to be able to capture a high fidelity scan. So again, this was using, in the first instance, this was using a mobile phone, because the quality of HoloLens at the minute hasn't quite got the ability to do the mapping as we wanted. But so again, we can kind of use one device to do that first high accuracy capture. That's then published through into the HoloLens environment. So again, there are aspects of this which are very much in isolation, and holistically going forward, you'd like to bring them all into one kind of system. And again, that's very much kind of the vision, what we want to achieve. But we're limited by the technology that we have available. Once you've taken the scan is then loaded up into the HoloLens. There is a little bit of juxtapositioning in terms of getting the position loaded and situated quickly. So it was a case of having to position the scan using a view mark that positions it to a certain level of accuracy, but then it's just about tweaking it to get into the exact right location. I think it's just video's not quite streaming properly, but I think you kind of get the influence here in terms of what we're trying to achieve. So the second part of this was looking very much at the asset capture. So again, we want to look at how we create a far more streamlined process. So identifying assets from the scan. So we've got a fuse box here. We were working with a company, with an academic institution out in Germany, who created a method for automatically segmenting point cloud data. It wasn't doing exactly what we wanted. It needs a bit more development work. So again, we're ongoing with that, but by using a very rudimentary system, we can start to identify assets. We can start to meta tag those assets, and again, it means that we can start to capture assets that we want to continue with at the point at the engineer stage, where he's actually going and doing the assessment in the first instance. Other areas we wanted to integrate was looking at thermal. So again, we know the DAQI camera's got the thermal camera on there, but again, can we start to look at using independent devices for that? Because there's a lot of off-the-shelf thermal capture technology there. Again, by looking at by doing some kind of physics in terms of getting the HoloLens to reference the second device, you can start to overlay that. And then the next step was looking at the kind of the more hidden technologies. So looking at things like your wall inspection, ground inspection. That could be things like ground penetrating radar. It could be wall scanners. And again, if we can start to create real valuable use cases around the use of the HoloLens and the use of mixed reality, and we start to integrate more technologies into this, then the whole process becomes far more valuable. So you can see here we've used a Bosch wall scanner. Unfortunately, it wasn't an IoT device. Again, we tried to work with Bosch to get an API connection out of them to be able to have some intelligence on this. But again, so it's a bit cut and paste. But again, we can start to map that, and then because the scanner is giving us an audio feedback, we can then actually start to draw live in view on the HoloLens as it goes through. So the system architecture is, as you see, it's very kind of a top level. So we have kind of two applications. We have the Unity game engine through into the HoloLens. We have the Asus Zenfone, and then we had the different kind of capture tools. And again, this was all being pushed back into an SQL database. If we're looking now at the kind of technical method for this, so the idea is the application was started, we named the scan, and that's then sort of pushed into HoloLens. At the end, start to bring in your different capture technologies. So if you want to skip to the next slide, Christine. So the outcomes really are this idea of having a model asset library which we can use for editing further down the line. It's looking to highlight the value of advanced visualization, because I think there's a little bit of sell to be done in terms of what are the real world use cases for this now. And again, looking at more streamlined data gathering. So I think there's a lot of work that can be done in terms of how we make that as seamless as possible. And again, if we can start to remove any erroneous data, so rather than having a process where we capture, we go back to base, we then inspect, and then we have to go and re-interrogate. Actually, you can do that interrogation at the point of capture. I think there's obviously a huge amount of value there. And as well, if we start to be able to kind of add metadata on the fly, it just means that you're enabling this kind of single source of truth. You want to step on to the next slide, Christine? So we've got a few kind of next steps on this. So we're looking at a more standardized approach to some of the model data. So can we use IFC data? We have been in discussions with a couple of GPR providers, ground penetrating radar device providers, who are interested in taking this application a little bit further forward, because we were trying to explain to them that really, if you start to fuse different sensors and fuse different capture mechanisms together, actually you will create a very powerful tool. And especially if you have something as simple like as a Bluetooth connection in there, then we can actually directly dial it in, get hold of that data, and send that data wherever we like. So it becomes a much more usable, connected application. So again, we're now working with them, identifying further levels of funding, and we're working again with the consortium to say, well, actually, how does this fit into the broader requirements? How does it fit into the projects, and how can we take this forward within that broader portfolio? And that's everything from me.
Great, thank you, Chris. I'm sorry, it was the slides were jumping around. I think there was something going on in the background, but we'll just thank you very much for describing the background on all of this and the kinds of results that you're getting from your work. I want to take this time to ask you guys a couple of questions. I wanted to ask to sort of examine what are the similarities between the projects that you've done and the results that you've reached. You've both heard each other's talks, what would you say, Chris, let's start with you. Were there some things in Farhad's comments that lessons learned and things that you concluded that you've also seen? Are there some specific areas that you've noticed?
Yes, I think it's very much that approach to R&D. It's very much how you take the applications further. And I mean, one of the things that we really tried to draw on with the whole augmented worker capture project was that idea of capturing some requirements. Let's say, what is a real world use case? I think one of the big challenges you have with mixed reality at the minute is that everyone talks from a very much kind of visionary perspective. And they talk about applications that will be great to be doing this in 10, 15 years' time. It would be great to see this sort of solution. But if we kind of bury down into exactly what are the real world opportunities now, where can we, and how can we look to accelerate that? So I think in terms of how probably we both identify something where we've gone, well, actually, you know what, there's a real world use case there. That's something that we can look to solve now. So in our case, it was this asset management and this data collection that we thought, well, actually, you know what, there's people wandering around now around buildings, legacy buildings, where there might be a wiring plan, there might be a drawing, there might be some drawings, but they might not be up to date, or what's been installed differs from what's actually being planned. And if I've got an engineer coming in drilling holes in things, then well, actually, they've got to go through this process anyway. This kind of understanding where all the wiring is, etc. So actually, if we can capture that whilst we're doing that, that's a really good use case, and that's a really high value problem that's been solved.
Okay, so I'll turn this around and say, Farhad, are there some techniques that were discussed by Chris, described, and so forth, that that you guys also used, or some approaches that were similar, or do you think that they were very different approaches?
I honestly think they were different, and they were same to some of the things that he showed as far as the HoloLens, some of the videos. That part was very similar to one of our projects that we had done. But some of the other things, they were just not within our domain, within our industry. So I couldn't really relate to those, even though the AR technology is the same thing. And I mean, he's right about the challenges. What he just said about AR, making sure that the use case is correct, is appropriate, because there's such a lot of I don't want to use the word hype, but we have to be very clear and we have to be very realistic on what we can and what we cannot do with AR, and try to work within that domain. And I think the project will be successful if you try to do too much or something that's outside of what the technology can accomplish right now. Then you're not setting yourself up for a successful outcome.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think I could remember that, Christine, a little bit in that. I think what I saw between the two presentations was that I think Farhad seemed to be very user experience, very operator focused. Whereas I don't think yes, obviously we were considering the operator, but actually the core challenge for us was stitching different technologies together. Yes, we did a little bit around user interface, but actually that end-to-end process with the operator process, we didn't really pay too much attention to the user experience. It was all about, getting the offset of the thermal camera correct, getting the positioning right, getting the layering right, getting the data from A to B, creating a succinct data flow. Mm-hmm. That was what we were focused on. Farhad seems to be far more around the user experience and getting a smoother operator experience as possible. So yeah, two ends of the spectrum.
Yeah, but I think Farhad's one of the goals for technical documentation is to have a pipeline of data and a content pipeline that is as continuous as possible. So you don't have content leaving one system and then, quote unquote, jumping into a different platform for visualization. And so in that regard, both of you are trying to either bring content from the real world into a database, as you were doing with the augmented worker capture, or in the case of the technical documentation, bring assets that are already in a database or already in some kind of a publishing system into AR. Farhad, there was one question by one of the participants. I wanted to know, what is the source of the content? What are the technical documentation assets stored in?
So we have an in-house content management system that we typically use. It's a PTC product, but that could be any off-the-shelf CMS. There's so many out in the market. But the real issue with that is you have to make sure that whatever archiving system or content management system that you're using works with what you're going to use to develop AR, and works with and the AR works with whatever you're currently using. So there's got to be synergies. You have to make sure that everything works together. You cannot go do something that you'll find that, it actually doesn't work with our CMS.
So you're saying, so both of you are saying integration. It's like, what's important? Integration.
Yeah, because you don't think about that in the beginning, and you're going through all these steps, but you're like, we've come so far, but now we're stuck at this certain point. So it's very important you think about that from the get-go.
Okay, we're out of time, so I'm going to wrap this up by summarizing that we've heard from two different technology innovation groups, a group within a a very, very large company like Huawei, and a technology development center, the AMRC, working with its partners, and both of them are gaining experience through their real world experiences, their real world use cases. I think we've seen that a lot of things can be done with what we have today, but everything's not perfect. We're not quite, it's not nirvana. I think that these are really good ways to show how the research objectives can be different, but they have things in common. I hope that those of you who listen and watch this webinar will think to reach out to our speakers today and discuss this further if you have interest. I hope that you'll explore partnerships with other area members and plan ahead and be very fruitful in your projects. We are planning ahead. The Area Research Committee is wrapping up our safety project. It's the first framework and report on the subject of risk management with augmented reality in the workplace. And we're going to do a webinar on that this fall. And we are also looking for area members that might want to do as these gentlemen have today and share their research results with other members. Thank you very much for your attention today. And of course, if you have any questions, we can follow up with those offline. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you, participants. And that's all for today. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Christine. Bye-bye.
Bye.